City this season all over again, and it's Real Madrid in Champions League all over again. Like, City just don't know how to manage game.
Ideally, Real Madrid should whitewash City, but Madrid like to add a little bit of display. They like drama. That's typical Madrid. To be frank, that game we watched, yes, City upped their level a bit. That's commendable. But when you look at the full game, assess it properly, the tactical instructions given both teams, strength and weaknesses of both teams, Madrid should have won that game even before the
5-2.
It could.
Let's move it on now and talk about what happened over the midweek. There was Champions League action. Let me run it by the scoreline. I think that the key games we are going to be talking about is that very big one that everybody saw. But Paris Saint-Germain beats Brest by 3-0. Brest couldn't stand firm against PSG. Sporting Lisbon at home lost to Borussia Dortmund. I think Borussia Dortmund are through already because they are playing the decider at home, unless a miracle. Juventus also lead by 2-1 against PSV. Then there was the one that everybody kept an eye on, Man City losing to Real Madrid by 3-2. Club Brugge beating Atalanta under controversial circumstances 2-1. And then Benfica beats Monaco. Ganes Salisu was on toast by Pavlidis for that brilliant finish from the striker. Milan, however, also lost to Feyenoord by 1-0. And then Bayern Munich and then Celtic also played a 2-1 with Bayern winning away in Glasgow. So I think the only two games are all but over. The PSG game, the Dortmund game, every other game is still alive going into the second round of the playoffs. Guys, have you guys paid attention to Ousmane Dembélé in recent weeks under Luis Enrique? He's been crazy. He's been scoring chances that he would otherwise.
I said that the last time we did the pod that maybe for a player like him, we judged him too early, and also because of the potential he showed right from his days at Dortmund, we sort of expected his progression to be fluid.
Does he not really have a coach who is not? We know how he plays it. I think I guess the question I'm going to ask is, does he now have a coach who appreciates his talent, however, is willing to be hard on him to develop the very thing that lets his game down? Because maybe at Barca, they were like, Ousmane, you're talented, show us what you got. And nobody was paying attention to his missed chances and his position in the box and the way he was taking his shots. At Dortmund, they were like, you're exciting. We don't want to heckle you, so do what you want to do. And initially at PSG, maybe that was it. But are we looking at Luis Enrique, who pays incredible attention to details and trying to improve a play and saying that, look, stay back, train more, train on the finishing, I'll play down the middle. And it's all of a sudden unlocked or improved. So that aspect. Does he have a manager like that now?
So I agree, but differently.
Okay.
The control is off the pitch. Because when it comes to creatives like Ousmane Dembélé, it is useless trying to shackle them by clearly defining what they do in that final third, because they thrive on chaos. Trying to get them to be very robotic, giving them clearly defined rules on where not to cross the line, or in the final third, which side of the box is he supposed to attack, or whether he's supposed to make third or late man runs. Those things will ultimately shackle them. Their game thrives on playing off the cuff, making mistakes, right? Being very intuitive. That is Ousmane Dembélé. And I think Luis Enrique does that very well. And for a manager who's a control freak, the irony of that is beautiful to observe. Where he asserts his control is his lifestyle and his attitude before match day. So all of the past reports that we used to get leaks that Ousmane Dembélé is not sleeping back in Barcelona, that he would invite a lot of friends into his house, they have all of these video games, his lifestyle and the fact that he was not having enough rest was affecting him.
Ousmane Dembélé, you want to know the team you use when you're playing FC25? Do you use Atletico Madrid or use PSG? So what team do you use?
So all of those things, it is not for nothing that all of those rumors have disappeared, because we have seen the other PSG stars and how we got told of their lifestyles. When Mbappé started partying too hard, we got to know. There's Zlatan Ibrahimovic wild parties, and it was a one-time thing. They didn't let it slide, right? So Paris is one place that notoriously does not protect its superstars, because the city thrives on the superstar status. They love it, so they talk about it. So you will know. But this time around, and I think in the first year under Luis Enrique, we had some of these reports about his attitude and how sometimes he'll fall out with the manager and the manager will drop him. But now there appears to be a certain middle ground. Enrique knows his place and he knows the authority that he has, but he also knows his place not to overstep his boundaries. So he will guide him. He will be firm on him that you are an elder statesman in the team now. Report to training on time. When we are training, give your all, give 1,000,000%. Show me that you care about the team. Work hard. But on match days, when I put you onto the pitch, you have earned the liberty to make the mistakes that you want to make. And for me, we're not seeing a nonchalant Ousmane Dembélé.
Yeah.
Not as if he's ever been nonchalant. And I love it when players like that are given the freedom. If there is anything that I would say he's adding to his game, it is how central he plays in some of these games. Because to be honest, we've never seen him do that. Not at Barca, not in the French national team, not in the youth team in France, not at Borussia Dortmund. So that might be the new variation to the current iteration of Ousmane Dembélé, like the central areas or how he's finishing off chances in those central positions. But it is beautiful to see. And it is one thing that I'm happy about for Luis Enrique because up until now, we've always felt that sometimes he overdoes it. Sometimes he's too stern on players. But with this incident of Ousmane Dembélé, at least he's been able to show that he has the right approach to it. And thus far, it has delivered results. And I just hope that Dembélé himself does not throw a spanner in the works.
What might have changed about him? Because now he's finishing off chances brilliantly. He's calmer in the balls. He doesn't look confused with what feet to use. He's scoring different kinds of goals with regularity.
Yeah, but it's just been 2 months.
Yeah.
Peaked in 2 months or just 2 months of being good?
It's just been 2 months of scoring this consistency.
Like that.
My issue is I like to have a longer period of assessment. I've seen the Ousmane Dembélé we all know for years. Enough times not to be swayed by these 2 months.
Yeah.
So for me, this is...
You want to give it time?
I want to give it time. Let's see how long he can do this. Let's see if he can sustain this till the end of the season. Fine.
Because he's got like 24 goals already this season?
Yeah, but I think it's like 16 and 14.
16 and 14
He's on a crazy run. But
10
again,
4, 16 and 14.
Yeah, and to be frank, the impressive thing is he's translated it to the big games. So this season they've played 3 Champions League games. He's continued his fine form through those. But again, look, it's a bit too soon for me personally for me to start talking about how good he is and whether he's turned it up. Because when he was in France, before he went to Dortmund, was it Rennes?
I think. No, Stade Rennes.
Stade Rennes, yeah. When he was at Rennes, he showed. I think he was a bit more. No, the word is not complete, but he had a bit more end product to him than since. He sort of stagnated there for a long time. So we always knew how exciting he was. We knew the potential, but the goal scoring, the assist wasn't part of his game. But this time around, in these 2 months, he's showing it. It's not, to be frank, these things, it comes with coaching and it comes with deliberate coaching. And I think that if you look at the favor he's got under Luis Enrique, since Enrique took over the team, you can tell he's like his personal project. He spent a lot of time. There were times where last season where PSG fans were frustrated with his output, yet he will still play matches. It just shows you the trust the manager has with the player. And I'm happy from a Luis Enrique point of view that finally, it's like he can say, this is the player I knew was in there. This is a player that the reason why I was spending this amount of time on him, this much time on him. And he's finally giving me the results that I want. But again, for me, it's a bit too soon to start waxing lyrical about him. I'll wait.
So you know, reach it to make you calm down.
We know him. That be the thing. We know him. So
if he flip,
then because we saw Jackson. Chelsea fancy something so right now.
The guy say make Mikel be shut up.
Charlie.
Anyway,
he's killing himself to put Africa on the map.
But the biggest
that's the trend there.
But me, you know, say that thing. I've never understood. Somebody has put Ghana on the map. Somebody. Like,
and Mikel Obi is the last person you should be saying that to.
Like that thing be anyway. That's another conversation. Real Madrid, though, for the first time, they beating City at Etihad, and the way they did it, I mean, it's City all over again this season. It's City this season all over again, and it's Real Madrid in Champions League all over again. Like, City just don't know how to manage games.
Last week when we were giving predictions, I told you guys that ideally, Real Madrid should whitewash City. But Madrid like to add a little bit of display. They like drama. That's typical Madrid. To be frank, that game we watched, yes, City upped their level a bit. That's commendable. But when you look at the full game, assess it properly, the tactical instructions given both teams, strengths and weaknesses of both teams, Madrid should have won that game even before the
5-2.
It could easily, they could
the
easily
first
have
20 minutes.
Yeah, easily have done it. In fact, there were times, and we're talking about it before we came on. There were times it was like Madrid were sleeping and they will remember that, oh, there's a game. Then they just increase the level to some crazy and then play and just dip again. That is Madrid. To be frank, we spoke about it at the end of last season's Champions League. Madrid hardly ever dominates any team, any game. Hardly ever. So this is typical. But I think this is one of the more straightforward where I think they were the better side and then deservedly they won. But the second leg again, they should destroy Manchester. Look, City are there for the taking. They are there. And I was looking through their injury list. And Pep is really underperforming because it's only Rodri who is here too.
Now I can't.
Now it's only
after the game. But Kaji was available for the game.
If you look a large chunk of the season, if you look, and I'm talking about long-term injuries, I'm not talking about 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
No, he's had a squad available.
He's had a squad available for a large chunk of the season. He's had world-class players available for situations like this.
John Stones, everybody's there.
So it's not really much of a good excuse when you talk about injuries. I just think, look, they've seriously underperformed. And what hurts me most, we've seen teams that have struggled. That one we've seen some before. But when you win for this prolonged period of time, it should build some toughness and mentality up here.
Yeah.
The manner in which they are losing these games, it's like Tottenham.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be Manchester City, be leading a game where you know you've not played your best football, but you've not been poor. You are leading 2-1. There should be some fight at home. Yeah. That is where we should start seeing you keeping the ball. But if you look at how the number of times they lost the ball in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, they were panicking really.
It's like, what? Really? Is this Man City? Is this a 2 years ago champions of the Champions League? Is it a Premier League champions we are watching? Like, the same thing Rodri was talking to Arsenal last season. Lack of mentality. They show their...
Yeah, it's clearly telling on them.
It's clearly telling. It's very unfortunate.
Well, Pep Guardiola be disappointed that City couldn't win the game, though, because when you look at Real Madrid, they had 2 central midfielders playing in their back four. Valverde on the right, and then Tchouaméni partnering. Wow, Asensio.
That is why...
What an incredible game that young man
had. That's why
Raul
I disagree
Asensio.
with the notion that Madrid should have dispatched City.
No, but
like if you... Before the game, if you looked at all the permutations, like you did a squad audits for the 2 teams, took into focus the form the 2 of them were going into that game. Madrid's injuries sort of leveled the playing ground a bit, right? Made the contest closer than it ordinarily would be if it was just the form of the 2 players, of the 2 sides.
That's not to catch you, but that's because I think you are rating Manchester City to the potential you think they can reach.
That's why I'm saying
City's fall.
No, that's why I'm saying that City are bad. We know. But
their standards.
Yes. But the injuries Madrid had at the back also gave City a chance that if they play well, they can create something meaningful further up the pitch. But because of all of the issues that
they lacked so much bite up front. It was shocking.
But because of all of the issues that we have enumerated, Madrid will still be them. And also because of the ruthlessness Madrid have shown, I think in the last 4 or 6 weeks. Look, this whole mentality thing and how we like to think that their experience and everything they've done over the years should help them see out that game. Me, I've said it here. The legs are gone. The body is gone. City have been doing this for about 8 years. Some of them 6 years, some of them 5. By order of nature, when you exert and operate at that level consistently for that long,
it's only natural.
If you are not doping, wear and tear will set in. Diminishing returns will set in.
If you are not what?
If you are not doping. Because look, what City and Pep... So I'll give you an example of a natural reaction to this whole nonsense, high-octane, intensity, gegenpressing or what. Did you see what happened to Dortmund after 2014?
The Pep Guardiola.
When they
the
almost
club
chopped
team.
last.
The Jurgen Klopp team.
Yes.
They were relegation zone at Christmas.
Two things. The performance dipped significantly. And then the injuries no longer made sense. Non-contact injuries, players who hitherto were super fit. The one person who escaped it was Gundogan.
Even he left them for City with an
He left
injury.
very early. Yes.
Even when he was going, he was injured.
He was injured.
Yeah.
When Dortmund were saying goodbye to him, they said they sold Ike Gundogan, who was carrying a chronic knee injury to Man City. That's them fool.
It was super petty. But you see, that is the reaction that a normal human body that is not doped.
Yeah.
And you see, these days, players are playing more games than ever. Right? So naturally, they are no longer in the position to execute the pressing schemes Pep's games require.
It's also a matter of
Even the body.
Hunger.
And you see, there is that. So I was coming to that. The other time I said all of this. Even the body. And you see, sometimes it manifests in how quickly they give the ball away.
you know I actually didn't hang up. I want to ask this. Like, stay on the same point though.
So I'll come to that.
No,
You
on
just
the
just
same
let me
point.
finish here.
Okay.
Even the frequency with which they give away the ball in unforced errors, let me put it that way. In the past, because the movements are so synchronized from minute 1 to 90, intensity levels don't drop. If Pep sees something dropping, he makes a quick substitution and then it is fixed. When the player has the ball, he sees all of these movements around that stretch the game, stretch the pitch, move teammates or move the packs out of the way and give them options. Sometimes just a space for them to drive the ball into, or a teammate who's free, showing up for the ball and then moving. Those things are not happening these days. Those things, the options and the quality of and here's the thing, he may see a teammate free, but because he's used to a certain quality of options, he will perhaps not take that risk. So in the past, a lot of the things that what Gen Z's now call La Posa, or what the tacticals call La Posa, it was a big feature of every Pep team. From the defenders to the midfielders, everyone had it. Even if you didn't have the technical ability, it was required of you that wait and tease the opponents to come to you. Sometimes, because they go into panic mode because the options are not appearing, they excessively delay, or they hit the pass earlier, or they underhit the pass, or they overhit the pass. Right? And it's not just a body thing. It's not just the fatigue. And it's not just because the movements are no longer synchronized because they cannot execute these pressing schemes or even the high-octane football. The other aspect of it is that, look, they have achieved everything there is to achieve. The other time I mentioned Kevin De Bruyne. What has he not won at City? Bernardo Silva. Okay, Gundogan. Some of them have even gone on to win laurels at the national team level. Silva has won the trophy they won with Portugal, the Nations League.
Yeah.
Probably with Cristiano around, they'll probably win it again this summer. So
And the World Cup.
So you look through that team and you ask yourself, what exactly is there for them to... Don't forget, we all had the rumors in the summer of the attempts to move Kevin De Bruyne on. The attempts to move the goalkeeper, what's his name? Ederson on.
He wanted to go. He wanted to team. Bernardo Silva wanted to leave City. Didn't find a buyer because Barca were interested in him.
And they are essentially the spine of the team.
Yeah.
The final point I'm going to make on City before I talk about Madrid is that City also did not exactly cover themselves in glory in the January transfer window. And I keep asking myself, the signings they made, apart from Mamouche, who replaces Julian Alvarez, who solves a problem for them?
Potentially,
who moves the needle?
Potentially Gonzalez in the middle of the park brings physicality. He's not Rodri. He's a different kind of player, but I see the thinking behind getting him.
So when I say that,
is he ready to slot in and do a job?
I say that with a view to who is a quick fix based on the skill sets they have, and not based on what Pep would require them to do. Because at this point, there's not enough time to coach them to meet your specifications. Maybe. No.
If your scouting is right, you're bringing in players whose game, we've seen Pep Guardiola bringing players in January and all of that.
So you should
be all the time Laporte came. When Laporte came,
you should be open
to play tomorrow.
You should be open to, they will play, but you should be open to the idea that they will not be able to execute the tasks you give them to the degrees that you want to. Because, and we're talking about a playoff tie with Madrid here. You won't have 3 months to prepare for that. The maximum that player Gonzalez had is 2 weeks of training, and he has to face Real Madrid. You get it. So the signings they make, yes, there were plenty, but as I said last month or last year, if City were going to give themselves a chance to quickly skip the steps of recovery, it had to be minimum 2 midfielders, 1 wide player, Julian Alvarez replacements, and 1 fullback. Minimum 4. They got a fullback, but I thought it should have been for the right position. And not because Akukudro is good. I just don't think that Akukudro is needed at left back. Vadio is balling. Yeah, it will be good. So maybe that sort of signing is one that you could have delayed for the summer and then bring in a right back, especially when it became evident that Kyle Walker was going to leave. 2 midfielders because Bernardo Silva's legs are gone. Gundogan's legs are gone. Kevin De Bruyne's legs are gone. He's only important when City have the ball. And then 1 wide player who gives you goals and can create for the center forward. Any of these you have to play in the half space, and the usual stuff that Pep requires from an attacking midfielder, that tactical flexibility, all of those things, you can relegate them to the backbench for the summer. But now they needed quick fixes, and the signings they made did not reflect that for me. Now to Madrid. I like the attitude they showed, especially the front 4. Because that performance they put up against Atletico was shocking. It looked like they were all hiding. But this time around, they took the initiative. Off the ball, they pressed high. And it was the reason Danny mentioned that they could flick a switch and then up the ante, start balling, because in that moment, it was synchronized. So they could sustain it. And when people talk about Madrid and how they don't dominate you the whole time, it is not out of choice. The imbalance Madrid have got for a long time, for the past 5 or 6 years, is the reason. If they had their way, they will not always be happy to allow teams to just knock the ball around, because even this season,
Madrid has traditionally never been a possession.
I get that, but they can manage games better than they've
if Madrid play against really, like we saw big Barca against big Madrid, Barca will play them off the pitch, but Madrid can still win some because they are not. And the thing I like about Madrid is, to hell with what you call modern football of obsession with keeping the ball.
No, not
they won't do it.
Not necessarily. So this season,
they stick to they are very pragmatic. They can adapt to your
before they play City.
And when they really want to keep the ball,
before they play City, there was a worrying stat that I saw. The number of touches they allowed the opponents to have the ball in their own half before they recovered it was 14.
Yeah.
In previous seasons, the maximum has been 10. The maximum average. At any point in time, when you strike the average, the highest number you would find for the past 4 seasons or so, especially after January, because then they switch into, we have to win our objectives, or we have to meet our objectives. So the league, the Champions League, what have you. So around that time, that is when you see Madrid's functionality. The average has been 10. But this season, they're allowing teams to have more touches of the ball in their own half, which is uncommon. Even for Madrid that is happy to allow teams to have the ball, right? So that is something that Ancelotti needs to fix. And look, from here on, they are favorites to win the Champions League. I just hope that Ancelotti does not jeopardize it by persisting with the front 4. Withdraw Jude Bellingham into midfield. Give yourself that protective cover, because the guy has shown it. In fact, we fell in love with Bellingham because he could operate in the double pivot, he could crash the box, but by default, he's central midfielder. The idea that he wants to play with the front foot in spurts against a weak Man City team, it worked. But there is no need to take those risks. If you can have your balance and the front 3 can still do, then maybe the only other thing that Ancelotti has to worry about is how lopsided the attack can look when the 3 of them or the 2 of them start combining in one side of the pitch. And it happens to be on the left, and it happens a lot. And on the right side, Vasquez is not offering anything. You get me? So I don't see the need to complicate things with going with the front 4. And against City, it worked because, again, It was
But was it
synchronized.
really
They
a
worked very
front
hard.
for when they played City. I thought it
When
was-
Bellingham joins, and he joined a lot.
But that is if they have the ball. But if of course it's Real Madrid. If they don't have the ball, Bellingham is always tracking back.
Yeah.
But if they have the ball, they don't keep Bellingham in midfield because they're afraid of the opponent. Bellingham will go and he got them the arena.
Exactly.
So
But-
I don't think it's 4-2-4 necessarily. I think it's especially in the game against City. I might be wrong, but I thought it was very much 4-3-3. But when Madrid had the ball, I mean Bellingham was
But
Bellingham.
against City, it was. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Then it worked because then you had the synchronized movement, but also the discipline to withdraw him when you didn't have it. But by and large, this season, when we've had to complain, that has been the norm. But generally, I thought it was a good performance. Kylian Mbappé again, continuing with his hot streak, scoring in the important games. So now he scored against Barcelona, scored against Atletico Madrid, against Man City in the Champions League. The important games that initially he was getting missing in. Now he's playing well, and then he's scoring in those games as well.
The reason why I know Mbappe is back in his confidence mood is because of the goal he scored. Mbappe at the start of the season, the goal he scored against City, he flaps it, it doesn't go into the back of the net. But when things are working for you,
it's working.
That is the kind of goal that, like any other striker who's not in confidence, it
won't go in.
It won't go in, but it still finds way back in the net. I have only this to say about City, right? I think the problem with City is something Sir Alex Ferguson always try to deal with. And something that Florentino Perez has consistently tried to deal with. And sometimes it's unfair to certain players, but it keeps the team competitive and hungry.
Yeah.
Now, with Man City, unfortunately for them, in the last 3 years, they've not necessarily signed players who they are building the team around. And the reason why you sign key players to want to build a team around is to drive the hunger and the desire of the team.
Yeah.
So a typical example for now Real Madrid is, for a team that was so successful, they managed to bring in Jude Bellingham 2 years ago. They brought in, Jude Bellingham last season.
Yeah.
Then they brought in Kylian Mbappé this season. Now, what that happens is, Bellingham hasn't tasted the success of Vini and Rodrigo before him. Mbappé same. So the hunger of these key players, and the issue is not only about signing anybody, it's about signing players. And that is why Ancelotti, whether he likes it or not, would have to play some of these key players. The essence of that is that Bellingham and Mbappé have not achieved the success of what this Real Madrid, Rodrigo and co have achieved. So the hunger and desire for the key players are still there. But in the case of Man City, all their key players, except maybe Erling Haaland, have been there, and you mentioned it, for forever. The hunger, look, they are professionals. They want to win games. But it is not only the thinking of winning games that keeps you going. It's the deliberate thought and desire and
that you have to come home with something at the end of the season.
That you want to win something that keeps you going. And that is what City didn't do. Kevin De Bruyne has won everything. So I don't think he has the same hunger. And it's natural. Bernardo Silva, the same. All of these players, the same. And that is why for players like Bernardo Silva, when they wanted to leave City, one of the very things they kept saying was they wanted a different challenge. In fact, when Ike Gundogan left to Barca, we can say it didn't work or whatever. But one of the things he said was they wanted a different challenge, different experience. Because they themselves know that when you come back to wear the same shirts, playing the same stadium, playing the same league, having achieved so much success, sometimes it's difficult to self-motivate yourself to go on. But if they taste a different challenge, so City should have brought in players who would be key. Like Ferguson would bring in Edwin van der Sar. He would bring in Nemanja Vidic.
Sometimes
he would bring in Michael Carrick.
Sometimes it was even a January transfer, like a short-term transfer, like
Henrik
Larsson.
Like he will bring in players who he will build. Like he will build a team around because you knew Carrick was going. Carrick knew he was always going to play. Like Edwin would be in pole, Vidic would be there. So even if your Ferdinand thinks he's won too much, the hunger and the desire of Vidic is driving everybody along. Like, and the same thing Fletcher did with the Gareth Bale signings. Some wouldn't work. The James Rodriguez signings.
Yeah, Mendy didn't work out.
The same thing he did with allowing people to leave and bringing in, making them play Varane. You always bring in key players who are important to the project and who will drive the hunger of the team forward. Because right now, if Real Madrid don't want to win the Champions League this season, Mbappé is going to remind them on the pitch. And Mbappé said something that when he walked into the dressing room, and that was like 2 weeks ago, he said he was very humble because he came into winners. These are guys who have won everything. So he didn't want to come there to be the superstar and be everything. But now he realizes that he can be himself. And since he realized that he could be himself, he's been playing differently. Yeah. And Mbappé now is like, in the moment where they are, Mbappé is driving them. Yeah. His goals has contributed to them leading the league and where they are. And that is one thing City missed. And that is one thing they need to bring in. It's not the Nico Gonzalez and co. You sign Calvin Phillips, Kovacic. These are good players to have around. But are these the players that you're going to build the team around to push the team forward? I think City, but City missed that. And on the players that you just mentioned, it was just because City weren't deliberate that these are the guys we're going with. Because to be honest, the Calvin Phillips issue, they allowed Pep to fuck up the guy. That excuse that he came back, was it half a kilo or 5 kilos overweight? Yeah.
You are not going to throw away my 40 million pound excuse investment in the name of his work him. No, that is why we have physios.
No, but truth, see, and that is what. No, the truth of the matter is, if
because ultimately,
at his sharpest, he can't play. You see,
which is true, but Sicho, ultimately, those players, they have a higher ceiling than the Kevin De Bruyne's who were 2 or 3 years away from their decline.
Kevin Phillips has since left to 2 teams.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, but I'm saying that.
So Pep can say I was right.
Yeah, but I'm saying
he was right with Leeds.
Yeah, he was right.
Not
you can play Leeds. Leeds, yeah, everybody's right.
I get it, but I'm saying not necessarily with him. But if they had done what you said and persisted that these are the guys who are going forward, because you cannot make the sort of investments we are talking about and still be playing Kevin De Bruyne and planning the future around them. It will be counterproductive.
Yeah,
because to be fair to Pep, this season, if you remember, there was a portion this season, De Bruyne wasn't getting minutes.
No, it's not a Pep thing.
He's tried things. It's just not working.
It's not a Pep thing. The other thing also is that even the wage structure made it easier for them to have done some of those things. And someone like Kevin De Bruyne, there's not a club in the world now who can give him an improved contract on what he's earning. Certainly not in mainstream Europe.
Yeah, but when he signed the deal, he deserved it. Yeah, at the time he signed the deal, he was worth it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. So you forecast that midway into the length of that contract, you have to make a decision to move him on.
So there's the other side of what I'm going to say is that on the same thing, that City didn't bring in the players to drive their hunger and desire, because every other player then looks like they are bored and they are tired. And it happens. Like sometimes you need to freshen things to kick everybody's ass in the team. Since you don't have that. The other thing too is, I must also admit that it is incredibly difficult for you to know the right time to do that thing.
No, but it comes with experience. If you are Pep, you've done it over and over and over again. You can tell.
No, Pep hasn't had to do it, and that's the experience.
But he's been with Chiki basically his entire life.
Agreed, but you see,
but
at City,
those were
the same team won the Premier League last season. Lost the FA Cup final to Man United in a game where you can only blame Pep, not because of the squad, but the way Pep decided to approach the game and his thinking. Then this same team were kicked out by Real Madrid on penalties. They were not bad in that game. You see, the cracking signs of City were not glaring. Like all things being equal from last season.
Even when the Premier League started.
Even when the Premier League started, it looked like some way. Like the signs were not.
It's okay.
It's okay. I was saying from last season. I said last season.
But I talk.
Oh, bugger. In season start, you talk. I'm saying that. You see, it wasn't as safe.
But I give examples from last season.
Arsenal this season.
Yeah.
The reason why Arsenal won't win something or otherwise is so glaring this season.
Yeah.
Like, you know it. So when you're going to next season, you can really plan it. But for City, see, the decline in athleticism and then form from players like Bernardo Silva, even Kevin De Bruyne, even what he does on the ball. Some of the things we see from players like Jack Grealish, like it's so wild. Like it's dropped this way down. The slow start to the season for who thought for Foden had a slow start? The man was the Premier League player of the season. Edison has lost form. Edison has never been a great shot stopper, but he's worse this season. Who would have thought that on the back of last season he would turn up this season the way he's turned up? So some of the City things, Kyle Walker, who would have thought his level would drop like So it was
watching him last night.
No, but it was dropping.
It was dropping, but you would have thought that he's still usable at the City level because Pep doesn't give him the responsibility necessarily.
At least because the
joining in attack, he's there to keep.
Also, the good around him would have protected him.
And Milan are doing it. They got the attack for Milano, half wheeler, and then step back, keep defensive balance. The fans they love and brutal, especially if they come the pit top. You know they have some ritual. You go drink water, you go do.
Triple H.
Alright.
For Milan.
Alright.
You know,
Triple H.
Charlie.
Alright.
So yeah, I mean that's my thoughts on City. But okay, now let's do quick predictions of the teams we think will go through. PSG, surely Brest is falling. Dortmund, I hope to spot in. They won by 3 goals.
Yeah.
Dortmund. Right. Juventus.
It was a surprise performance of the round.
Not really surprising.
Well, they've got a good coach.
Sporting
Kovac
have been
very
really
poor
since Amorim. So
I think the last time we were discussing, you said they would win.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone expected 3-0.
3-0 was good. I mean, that was Niko Kovac's first win since he. All right. And then Juventus beats PSV by 2 goals to 1. PSV scored and then it went 2-1, but they've got a lifeline.
I think UV can finish the job. Draw masters.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they'll make it very difficult for PSV.
Atalanta were poor against Club Brugge, although that penalty shouldn't have been a pen, but can they do the job in Bergamo?
They shouldn't come back. Club Brugge.
They will destroy them for there. Well,
how many times have Atalanta scored 4 goals or more this season?
When they are scoring. Okay, Benfica and the Monaco. Benfica won by a goal.
Monaco should have
at least. Yeah,
they should have at least got a goal at home. They are done.
Milan and Feyenoord. Milan lost the first leg, but at the San Siro, can they? Feyenoord a very difficult side. And they sacked their coach prior to the game.
Yeah.
Milan didn't know what to expect. They were surprised.
See, Rafael Leao. Milan, they missed their trick in not moving them on. Rafael Leao and Theo Hernandez. The problem with them is that they pick and choose when to. Milan could have been 2 or 3-0 up before Feyenoord scored.
Yeah.
And even after Feyenoord scored, that 1v1, what was he trying to do? So this game, I'm trying to explain to people why we cannot predict. Milan can play well. They can get the chances. When they fall to Theo Hernandez, and that day, he did not decide to come and ball, forget it. But when they fall to Leao, the same.
I think Milan will win in Milan. I think Milan will win.
I also think they will win.
Yeah.
It's just 1-0. So.
I think Milan will win. I don't think they will be as bad as they were in the first leg. I think they'll have a better match.
No, but even in the first leg, they were the better side. They had the chances.
So they had the ball. I mean, Feyenoord scored quite early, and so they didn't want to commit. Milan had the ball, but the front men were all over the place.
That's the point.
And then there's Bayern Munich and Celtic.
Oh.
Bayern will finish.
Bayern will finish them.
I like the way Celtic finished the game. In fact, the way they started, the way they ended were good. But
it's about what's in between.
Another side. Down the middle. But what about City and Real Madrid at Bernabeu? Can they?
City are out.
Madrid only need to manage that game, not necessarily exert themselves. As sad as it is to say it's in a game involving City, that's what City have been reduced to these days.
All right, let me know what you think. Let us know what you think in our comment section. Who do you think is going to go through in the Champions League knockout playoff stage? We've seen some great football in the first round. The second round is upon us. Let us know who's going to go through for those ones.